Hey everybody, welcome back to the Friday Night Prepper pre-party show. Wow, what a day on the stock market. We got a lot to talk about here, folks. I've been wanting to do a gold and silver video here for a while, but the timing on this is really incredible. Thank you everybody who's been hanging out in chat and kind of getting the room warmed up while we're waiting to go live. We're going to go through a couple things here, but first and foremost, I need to say, because we're going to be talking about some financial stuff today, Sarge is not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Anything I say today is my opinion. You should always do your own due diligent research on your financial transactions. All investments, all purchases have risk that they could gain or lose value, and you need to be responsible for that yourself. I'm not responsible for that. And consult your financial wizards, consult your financial consultants if you want to make some big decisions for yourself. So from henceforth, this is for entertainment purposes only, and my opinion is my opinion only, not necessarily representative of anybody else, including the brands that I work with, certainly not YouTube. Okay, so that is my legal disclaimer. It's also in the description down below. As always, you guys know the rules here: no racism, no sexism, no sexism. Be kind to the moderators. If you have a disagreement with somebody, please be respectful and articulate your point. That's so much more productive than simply, getting fired up. Sorry, I got a little connection issue here. I want to see if I can fix it. Than just, name calling and things like that, which really doesn't add anything to the conversation. We do have a poll going. Make sure you vote in the poll at the top. We will go ahead and review that at the end. In fact, I'm going to write myself a little reminder on my notes to review that at the end. And let me go ahead and introduce tonight's sponsor so that we can get them some credit for keeping this channel running and bringing this video to you. And then we'll go ahead and say hi to chat. So tonight's sponsor is Apmex. Apmex.com. Apmex is my choice for silver and gold. In fact, I've got 4 boxes within eyesight that I'm going to do an unboxing video at some point of some gold and silver that I purchased fairly recently during some sales. Wanted to take advantage of that, but I just haven't had a chance to shoot that video yet, so that's going to be coming. We're going to be looking at this screen for a couple things tonight, actually. But when you go to Apmex, I've been using them for years, since about 2009. They were, in my opinion, one of the first online dealers that I looked at and said, wow, this looks like really professional. Turns out they've been around for over 25 years now. They just passed their 25-year anniversary. You can't be in business in this business for that long and not deliver exactly what you say. So you're guaranteed to get what you want. I always have. Every single order that I've purchased since 2009, I've gotten exactly what I've ordered, and it's always come within a reasonable period of time. When you go to their website, a couple things I want you to check out here. You can go over to gold, as I'm hovering over right now, and then go down to on sale. I always recommend you check that page. And then you can go up here and you can sort by, let's see. But as you can see, there is a little sale going on right now until October 13th. So you might want to go check those sales out. But you can go over to this sort by button, and then you can click from low to high. Whoops, let me go back one. I double clicked there, sorry. You can click from low to high. And then what it'll do is it'll actually sort by prices from low to high. So if you're on more of a budget, it's going to start at the lowest, the most affordable pieces of gold there, and it will work its way up all the way into thousands and thousands of dollars, right? So if we scroll down, as you can see, the price continues to go up. And if you're a really big spender, let's just skip ahead here a little bit. Maybe you want to get into full ounces of gold, that kind of thing. Or these are actually half ounces. Sorry, let's skip ahead a little bit more. I was going to say that's awful good price. Let's go to the very end if we can. All right, so when we start getting into $4,000 here, we should be looking at full ounces of gold. These are some pre-1930s gold. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So you get down here. This is full ounces of gold, and you're looking around $4,153. But as you saw when we first opened it up, you can get into gold as low as $45, or even gold backs if you want to get into those. Now, I also go down here and I check the clearance section as well. And as you can see in the clearance section, you're going to see things that are on really good sales here as well. Same thing on the silver side. You go over to the silver and then you go to on sale and clearance. Okay. I always check those two before I place my order. All right. So let's get out of here for just a second. We're going to probably come back to this page, but I want to say thank you to Apmex for being a sponsor for this channel. Without support from the brands like Apmex, I wouldn't be able to do this and deliver consistent content to you twice a week, which is what we usually try to do here. Okay. Let's go ahead and say hi to chat, and then we're going to get into the topic for tonight. I saw Scott was first one here, warming up the room for me. I appreciate you, Scott. Thank you so much. Hope you're having a good Friday. Grim Reality, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the channel. I saw this comment earlier, so I wanted to highlight it. Silver perma bears came out of the woodwork in droves yesterday, claiming it would crash after surpassing 50. So, yeah, maybe we should talk about that for just a second, only to see it bounce back and recover despite all the short selling. So, when you hit certain marks, ceilings, if you want to call them that, and floors, that tends to be when you see a little bit more activity. $50 is kind of like one of those natural ceilings where a lot of people were expecting it to maybe drop back down a little bit. That wouldn't have surprised me, to be honest. But what happened with the market going into a pretty heavy crash today, which let me just pull those numbers real quick. So the NASDAQ dropped over 800 points today. New York Stock Exchange dropped over 400 points. New York Stock Exchange Composite dropped over 400. Dow Jones dropped over 800, and the S&P 500 dropped $182. So with that happening, that people were seeking a safe haven, right? They were seeking a safe place to park their money. And a lot of people say, like, what if this is the big crash, the beginning of a big crash, or a recession or whatnot, which I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit tonight. I'm not sure if that's what we're looking at here. I'll tell you why I think the market's crashed. But a lot of people are parking their money in safer spots. Gold is one of those spots that a lot of people consider safer. And so gold and silver did not take the hit, as did almost every other asset, every other place that you could park your money, including cryptocurrencies, took a hit today. Although when I checked, it looked like they were doing a little bit of a recovery within the last hour here or so, because there is after hours and weekend trading for cryptocurrencies. So those will continue to fluctuate through the weekend. It looks like they're possibly making a little bit of a recovery here, but they are struggling as well. So really, gold and silver is one of the only areas that didn't get hit really hard today. Not surprised, right? Those of us who are into precious metals, we know this. This is one of the reasons why we like precious metals. All right, let's go back to your chat. Virginia Bushcrafter, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you so much. Hey, Virginia Bushcrafter, are you going to be down at Georgia Bushcraft again? I know the classes opened up today. I hope you saw that email. Cuck V Farmer, how are you doing tonight? Thank you so much. Welcome from the People's Republic of Michigan. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you. Lazarus Long, it's good to see you. King Corso, thank you so much for joining. Hope you're having a good Friday. Burpee Yoga Uncle, how are you doing tonight? Scorpion Metals, how are you doing? It's good to see you, my friend. Wayne, how are you doing? Dangerous Freedoms, good to see you. And by the way, some of you mods have really been helping me out every week after week. I really appreciate that. I know we're getting towards the end of the year. I'm going to be reaching out to you for just to make sure I've got, if your old email address is still good, just so I can do a little something for you. Scrolling down, Lee, Cold War Prepper, how are you doing tonight? I hope you're doing well. The real question is where it settles. Is this the end of sub $30 silver? Let's come back to that. I think that's a great question. I'll give you my opinion. So Scorpion Metal says it's a little harder to mess with what people know and believe. The gold and silver market and the economy is starting to get tough to manipulate. True. And because here's the other thing with gold and silver, they are used in medical applications, technology applications, and space exploration, like, the satellites and things like that, and our telescopes that we have up in space. And they're used in the development of stuff that goes inside of our missiles. We've been selling a lot of weapons lately. The United States has been selling a lot of weapons. That means more demand for gold and silver. I don't know if you paid attention to the news. I put it up on Instagram. I think I put it up on Twitter X as well. The United States just bought a 10% stake in Trilogy Metals, the gold and silver mining company. You can go look that up. I bought some shares in Trilogy Metals, and within a couple hours, it was already up 40% in after-hours trading. Why would the United States be the government, right? Like, this is, you have to understand, this is a little unusual. It doesn't happen a lot where the government acquires a stake in a company. Why would the United States be acquiring a stake in a gold and silver mining company? You should be asking yourself these questions, okay? We need precious metals. That's part of what's happening here. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing you again. And I know I looked at the list a little while ago, and I saw that Forager Chick signed up for my class as well. So looking forward to seeing you both, actually. If you lower the price, people will just buy more of it. Yes, supply and demand, right? Eat good food. Strange times we're living in now. Yes, no, Burpee Yoga Uncle. We do not endorse cockroach milk or cockroach flour or lab-grown meat on this channel. Just say no to those things, okay? We're not going to do that here, folks. We will fight that battle till we burn down every iceberg on this planet before Sarge is going to drink cockroach milk. I promise you that. I will ruin the entire ecosphere for this planet before I will drink cockroach milk. Okay. All right. Moving right along. So let's go back to, I think it was Wayne's question. Is this the end of sub 30 silver? I'm going to give you my opinion. I think it is. I think it is. Does it mean that it couldn't drop down to, from 50 for a while and bounce around? Yeah, I think that certainly can happen. It wouldn't have surprised me if it had happened today, except that we had this market crash. And I think that's one of the reasons why it didn't. But if you're waiting for silver to drop below 30, again, this is just my personal opinion, not financial advice. I'm not waiting for that. I don't see that happening. Could I be wrong? Of course. Have I been wrong before? Of course. But this has been a long time coming for silver, to cross that $40 threshold, which I thought that was pretty exciting, and then 50. Now, could it run up to 75? It depends on what happens in the next few weeks. I think the true value, again, just my opinion, the true value of silver per ounce is probably somewhere between 75 and 100. The market manipulates it lower, right? Gold at 4,000 an ounce, I'm a little surprised. I told everybody on this channel for the last few years, I've been telling people that anything under 3,000 on gold was a really good price, and that I didn't think it was going to last. Where are we now? It's at 4,000 and it's still climbing. Is gold going to drop below 4,000? I think there's a chance. But it's not. I don't see it personally. My opinion, not financial advice. Personally, I don't see it going below 3,000 ever again. I think you missed that opportunity. So now what do? Do you beat yourself up and say, well, it's too late. Now I can't get gold and silver? I don't know. If gold hits 5,000, are you going to be saying, I wish I bought it at 4,000? Right? There's always risks with this, guys. There's always risks. These things can go up and down. People have sent me messages and said, do you think it's going to go down to this? I don't know. I'll give you my opinion, but scared money don't make no money, right? Scared money don't make no money. You got to have to take some chances, whether it be gold and silver or stocks or real estate even has risks, right? Real estate's another one of those things that's considered safer. I had lost a lot of money on a real estate transaction in Kentucky. I bought, unfortunately, at the height of the market, and then I had to sell it at the lowest part of the market during the Obama era, right? Wasn't that the Obama era, 2009? Correct me in chat if I'm wrong about that. When the market really crashed. I'm not blaming him for that. I mean, the banks were lending out too much money, putting people in houses that they couldn't afford. It was a complicated thing, but I lost money in that transaction. Now, I made a ton of money in another real estate transaction. So real estate is generally safer for a lot of people, but nothing is 100% safe. You can always lose money. You have to take some chances, take some risks for yourself. I'm going to come back to chat in just a second. So sudden spike is also likely due to some macroeconomic, geopolitical, market-specific factors. if central banks recently just lowered interest rates, and there's some talk that there's another interest rate reduction coming. What happens generally when we lower interest rates, it does weaken the dollar. Pay attention to this next part. If you take nothing away from this stream except for this next part, this, in my opinion, is the most important thing to remember. When people ask me, like, is gold or silver going to go up or down? The best indicator that we have is how are people viewing the US dollar as the world reserve currency, okay? When the value of the dollar goes down, gold tends to go up. When the value of the US dollar goes up, gold tends to either go down or stay the same, or kind of hover, right? So with interest rates lowered and likely being lowered again, the US dollar is going to weaken a little bit, maybe a lot, and that boosts demand for precious metals as an alternative way to preserve your wealth, okay? Now, the other thing here is lower interest rates reduce the opportunity cost of holding non-yielding assets like gold and silver. I'm going to explain that. Don't panic. Okay, gold and silver, owning them on themselves do not pay you anything, right? So I own dividend-producing stocks. We've talked about this before as well, like Coca-Cola. By the way, if you're getting anything of value out of this, please consider giving me a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to vote in the poll at the top. So I own some dividend-producing stocks like Coca-Cola, like AbbVie Pharmaceuticals, like 3M, like Caterpillar, and those pay me for owning shares. They reimburse me as a shareholder based on their profit. That's called a dividend, right? So owning those assets pays me. If you have a money market account, you get paid for parking your money in there. A savings account even does this to a little bit. CDs do this. They pay you for parking your money there, okay? So that's what's called I'm losing my train of thought here. Anyways, they're income producing assets. Okay, let's call it that. But gold and silver are not income producing assets. They're stores of wealth. Okay. Now, if interest rates are high, you make money by parking your money in a CD, a money market account, a bond, even a savings account. You can make money just by parking it there. So that's if you're putting your money in precious metals when interest rates are high, that's called an opportunity cost. Okay, the money that you parked in precious metals could have been used to make money elsewhere, and that's a factor. When interest rates go down, as they are right now, and are expected to probably continue to go down, other options like savings accounts, CDs, and money markets, things like that, don't pay as much. And so people start to say, oh, gold and silver, if I'm going to move my money around into something to try to store it for a little while, maybe gold and silver will go up. Maybe I move my money over here for a while. Okay. Do you understand that? So that's what's happening right now with the economy. Stay with me. There's more. One more time. Let me go through that one more time before I move on from that. When interest rates drop, people don't feel like they're missing out by holding gold or silver because they weren't earning much money elsewhere anyways. That makes gold and silver more attractive. So a lot more people start moving their money into gold and silver, and then the price goes up. You got it. Nailed it. All right. Time out there. Let's check your chat, and then we're going to move on because there's a lot more to this. Just say no, thank you, Sarge. To the cockroach meat. Yeah. No, we ain't doing that. All right, thanks, Scorpion Metals. Have a good night. That's it right there. That's why the stock market crashed today. So ZG has put severe restrictions on rare earth minerals. Whole nother thing we probably need to talk about here is rare earth minerals and what that is also used in. Excuse me, I'm going to fix the lighting here. That is also used in the production of all kinds of things: technology, weapons, satellites, jets. We need rare earth minerals, and there's a high demand on them. Unfortunately for the United States, China has an abundance of them, and we do not. And China has said that they're going to be restricting the export of rare earth minerals. Trump responded by saying, that's fine, we're going to raise tariffs on China. and that's why the market crashed today, more or less. Of course, there's other factors. A lot of people were saying like, hey, we were due for a major correction. This was going to happen at some point anyways, but that was the catalyst. That was the gasoline. And then it just took a little match. And so that's what caused the market crash today, more or less. I mean, there's of course, there's other factors, but that's the big one. All right, 4,000 gold to... so you're talking about the gold to silver ratio. To me, no. Silver should be valued much higher. I don't think that is I don't think that's a good ratio. I really don't. So when I don't want to get too much into this one tonight because I'm not really the best at explaining this one. But if you guys want to tackle it in chat, go ahead. But basically, like value of gold versus the value of silver over time. Sometimes there's periods of time where it makes more sense to buy more gold. Sometimes there's periods of time where it might make more sense to buy more silver. And it does kind of fluctuate a little bit. And you can play it against each other, right? So like, let's say that you were heavily invested in silver, and then the ratio goes into a favor where silver is coming up and gold hasn't moved up that much. It might be time to sell some silver and buy more gold, as an example. I hope I explained that right. I wish you know what? As recently as I think it was 2007 or 8, gold was still around $750. I wish I had bought a ton of gold then. And then each time it's gone up, you get that like internal cringe of like, oh, I wish I had bought it when, Maccabee, it's good to see you. How are you doing, my friend? Yep, that was it. It was basically a retaliatory thing. Sketch cross because yeah, and I think Wayne, I think I agree with you. I think that's part of the reason why the price gets manipulated in the market so much is corporations need that price to stay low. So the demand, if the actual demand was ever filled, the price would skyrocket. The way on what the true price of it is. If somebody wants to tackle that one in chat, go for it. It's not on my agenda tonight, and that's another one that's really hard to explain to people, like the paper price of silver versus the actual value of silver. All right, let's move on. Geopolitical tensions. So we know the Middle East has always got geopolitical tensions going on. It looks like the Palestine-Israel thing might be calming down, I hope. But Eastern Europe, Russia, it's hotter than ever. It's harder than ever. Europe is really, really tense because there's been some incursions into their airspace. That, when people start getting panicky about a possible big war, that's when a lot of times you'll see people move some of their financial wealth into gold and silver, because historically it's been the best way to preserve your wealth through the collapse of empires. It's the best way to move in out of blockade zones and get yourself off the X, basically, because the reason why is gold, more so than silver, gold, because there's so much weight in such a little small amount of it, so much value in so much little amount of weight. You can take a handful of gold if you had it, and you pretty much could escape from a war zone, take it to another country, little by little anonymously change that to the local currency, and basically disappear. Right? It is your get out of jail free card, more or less. This is why it's used to bribe legislators. Look up that story, right? This is why wealthy people hoard a lot of gold, right? It is their get off the X, get out of jail card. You could disappear to just about anywhere in the world and anonymously change that into the local currency and, make yourself harder to find, basically. That's why it's such an excellent prep. I know a lot of newer preppers prefer Bitcoin. What did Bitcoin do today compared to what gold did? I'm not anti-Bitcoin. I own a little bit of cryptocurrency. I'm not anti-Bitcoin. I'm just saying I don't see it as a financial prep the way that gold and silver are. All right, so we talk about geopolitical tensions, economic uncertainty. So a lot of market analysts were starting to say that it looks like we're in a little bit of a market bubble. Correction's probably coming. This could be part of that fuel as well. We'll have to see what happens next week. We'll have to see if maybe people on Monday say, okay, maybe this sell-off was a little over enthusiastic, and when you get bargain hunters start buying back into the market. That could happen. But we do see some evidence of slowing job growth. I think that you've been watching my channel. You know how I feel about this. I think AI is going to make the job growth and job loss thing an exponential problem over the next 5 years. I think that we're going to see unemployment levels continue to catastrophically rise until something's done about it, right? And at what level does that happen? I can only guess. The number I've thrown out to you, which is just a guess, is 30% unemployment. If we hit 30% employment, things are going to look really bad in this country, right? Imagine the Great Depression, but much more violent. That's what it would look like, in my opinion. Okay. And I think AI could push us there. But right now, we're not looking at that right now. Are we looking at slowing job growth, declining manufacturing? Does that put us potentially back into a recession? So when that happens, when market analysts are starting to say that, you got the big whales, right? The hedge funds. These are the billionaires. These are the big dogs. I can't move the market. All of my combined audience, if we all went and said, hey, I'm not saying to do this. Please don't take this seriously, because then I'm going to get a call from the Trade Commission. So I'm not saying this. So I'm going to make up a stock, the Acme Corporation, which I don't think is a real stock. If I said, hey, everybody go out and buy Acme Corporation, and you guys decided, hey, let's do this, right? So we pump it up. We still can't move the market. We're not big enough. But a couple billionaires, they can move the market. These are the whales. These are the ones that basically decide. Their decisions affect what's going to happen on Monday. Okay. So when a lot of market analysts are saying, hey, it seems like a little bit of a tech bubble going on right now, we're a little bit concerned about this. And then the hedge fund billionaires start saying, pull my money out, put it in somewhere safer. Market crashes, precious metals rise. Is that a factor here? I don't know. I'm just saying that's one of the scenarios that can do that. All right. So we talked about the US dollar weakness. Gold and silver are priced in US dollars. A weaker dollar makes them cheaper for foreign investors, foreign banks to buy them as well. So I just talked a little while ago about how the dollar is weakening. So since the gold and silver is purchased with US dollars, you have an opportunity for banks all around the world. Now, don't just think about the United States. Think about China, Russia. Think about South Africa. Think about India, right? And all in Europe and England and France and Germany, Switzerland, and all these countries, their banks can start saying, hey, we can get a lot more gold on this weaker dollar. Okay. So that for foreign investors, for foreign banks and things like that, can also increase demand, can also drive the price of gold up. But if the dollar index is falling, when the dollar index is falling, that's often means good news for metals. Precious metals tend to rise. I'm going to get back to chat in just 1 second. I want to get a couple more little points here. Renewed concerns about persistent inflation. We're hearing that as well, right? Like inflation doesn't seem to be dropping, not enough. Or stagflation. It's just not the price of everything has not really come down that much. Some things have, but some things like food really haven't at all. In some cases, it's gone up, right? So that can also drive gold and silver higher because it's seen as like, hey, we're about to hit something bad here. Let's park our money somewhere safe, okay, or safer. Remember that, okay, safer. All right. So in the last piece here is if CPI or PPI data come in hotter than expected, that can also be a trigger that affects the gold and silver market. What's CPI and PPI? We're going to get to that in just a second. Let's go back to your chat. I did. Yeah, same, Lee. I was lucky and I was able to get a lot of my stack when it was around $15. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I was able to get in, at least with silver. Gold, I got in a little bit too late. I wish I wish that if I could go back to 2007 and give myself some financial advice, I would have told myself get into gold more than silver. That's what I would have done. I didn't. I leaned more heavily into silver because I got into that mindset of, well, gold's too expensive. I'll get into silver. Had I been thinking like, yeah, gold is expensive, but I can still buy some fractional gold, I would have been in a better position. I do buy gold more than silver now, but I still like both. I'm not saying don't buy silver. I'm saying I like both. I lean more into gold now. And I can't afford an ounce of gold at a time. So I buy fractional gold. I buy what I can, 1/10 of an ounce here and there when I can do it. And I just keep picking away at it. My goal is to have over 100 pieces of gold. Not there yet. Okay. And that's another thing is like, it's good to set these little goals for yourself. It kind of helps you stay on track. All right. Hey, Scruffy Scrubs. We love our medals, man. We love our medals. Hey, Angie, it's good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Always good to see you, my friend. Yeah. I think, we could also make a case that since 2001, right, since we were attacked, that completely changed the U.S. economy. I think you could make that case. Okay, good. That's a good explanation there. It's been offset by years of cheap debt and credit cards, so people don't feel the squeeze as much. Yep. Yes, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, Wayne. That's another thing that some market analysts are pointing out is that people are using their credit cards way more than they were a few years ago. That's never a good sign. That's never a good sign. That may look like a spending boom for a little while. This is what happened with the 80s. Everybody's using their credit card and it looks like the economy's flowing really good, but eventually that catches up. And as much as I know, sometimes there's emergencies where you might have to use your credit card. I'm not Dave Ramsey. I don't go by that, like that you can never use credit. I don't believe in that. But I do recommend you be careful with it and use it responsibly and only use it if you have to, and try to pay it down as quick as you can, because the interest rate, you're basically throwing money out the window on credit cards, right? Like, so let's say that I had to make a car repair and the car repair was, let's say it's a big one, it's $1,500, and I don't have $1,500 in cash available. Maybe I have to put that on the credit card. Well, now when you start figuring the interest rate, each month that I don't pay it off, it's going to cost me more than that $1,500. So you want to squash that down as quick as you possibly can. Try to get that balance down to zero. So if you're sitting on a lot of debt, that would be the thing I would, if I was giving advice, which I'm not because this is just entertainment, I would be like telling you, please try to get that debt paid down as quick as you can. That's so important because that's what's killing you. Your debt and your interest on your debt is killing you. Very, very, very bad situation to get yourself caught up on that. And I understand. I understand how it can happen. A couple emergencies in a row can put a person into really bad debt. Prices are going up, Angie. Yep, we're noticing that here too, especially on the groceries. That's how that's a good responsible way to use it. So there is responsible ways to use credit, and you can even do things like earn points that you can use that, it's like a little extra income too. If you're careful, you got to be really, really careful how you do these things. Yep. And then Lee said it right there. If you pay off your card, unless I think there's one card that doesn't do this. Almost all cards should be that if you pay it off when your bill comes in, it should be zero interest that you're paying. So if you have a rewards card, you can earn points on that, and you could use it to buy airline tickets or give yourself some cash back, things like that. Smart. And we had somebody on the channel a couple of years ago that was talking about this. She actually had gotten herself into a homelessness situation, and she, instead of like borrowing, she sold off her silver collection until she could get back on her feet. That's why it's a prep. That's exactly the right use for it. Last prepper did a Costco price check before you're live. Yeah, it's bad. That's bad. All right, let's move on a little bit more. I just got a little bit more, guys, and then we're going to call it a night, okay? CPI, if you don't know what this is, Consumer Price Index. It's like a price tag report for regular people. It tracks how much just want to mark my spot. It tracks how much everyday stuff costs, like groceries, gas, rent, clothes, medical care, basically what you and I pay to live. If CPI goes up, which it seems to be right now, that means things are getting more expensive. That's inflation. PPI, Producer Price Index. Now think of PPI as the price tag for businesses. So it tracks how much companies are paying for the stuff they need to make products for us. So raw materials like steel, lumber, oil, equipment, shipping. If PPI goes up, it means business costs are rising, and it says they might pass that on. They're going to pass that on to the consumer in most cases. So that leads to higher CPI. Okay. So if that data comes in for CPI and PPI that's hotter than expected, that can be a trigger for people to start moving money into precious metals, and that can make the price go up. Okay. All right. Latest data that I was able to pull on CPI and PPI. This is from September 11th, 2025, which represents August data. The headline CPI was up 0.4% for the month, year over year, 3.7% up. Core CPI, which takes food and energy costs out of it, up 4.3% year over year. It's going up. PPI released September 12th, 2025 for August data. Headline PPI up 0.7% for the month, much hotter than expected. Year over year, it's up 2.8%. What does that mean? It means it's costing businesses more to make the stuff that they sell to us. Whether or not they pass it on right away, if it continues to happen, most businesses have to raise their prices. Okay. And I know there's going to be people, they don't have to raise their prices. The CEO can take a price cut. To some extent, yes. To a certain point, yes. But there becomes a point where that math doesn't math anymore, right? Like, so one of the things I remember when there was a big battle about, I'm gonna sidebar here for a second. Bear, stay with me. There was a big battle where people were like, we should have living wages for everybody, right? And they were saying if the Starbucks CEO would just take a price cut, everybody could make the living wage. Well, people sat down and calculated it, and that's not even close to true. Basically, the numbers don't math. The math doesn't math. So a CEO will sometimes take a hit, and sometimes they'll delay bonuses and raises for the executives. Yes, that can buy us a little bit of time. Yes, it's a good thing when a company does that. For the consumer, it's not good for them, but it's good for the consumer. But they're not going to do that forever. Eventually, those costs have to get passed on to the customer, or they're probably going to go out of business. Okay. The math doesn't math, folks. I know everybody wants to blame the CEOs. Yeah, they're often overpaid, but you can't just like say, oh, if we cut CEOs' pay, that we could pay all the employees of Walmart a living wage. The math doesn't math, folks. It just doesn't. Sorry. All right. What else do I got for you? So it looks like inflation is not cooling off, and that means that gold and silver prices are going to be affected, likely pushed up. Again, always risk. Remember that, always risk, but likely pushed up. Interest rates likely will be knocked down a little bit. Stock market reactions, we saw that today. Now, again, this was probably more triggered by the tariffs thing in China with their rare earth minerals thing. That was probably the biggest catalyst to this. But make no mistake, the hedge fund billionaires, the ones who really move the market, they're looking at this data. Okay. All right. Supply constraints. Silver, which has industrial uses, especially in solar panels and electronics, there's rising demand and supply disruptions, such as a mine collapsing or things like that, can cause spike prices. Any news about mine closures, miners striking, export restrictions, that can also impact prices. If gold or silver broke through key resistance levels, that's what we're talking about at the start of the stream. Key resistance levels, 50 is a resistance level. Once it breaks past it, one of two things. Either it will trigger a sell-off, or people will say, hey, it went past 50, maybe it can go to 60, right? I know, right? Like, how do you know what's going to happen? You follow this data and you make your best decision for you, okay? But that's called a resistance level. That was the word that I was looking for before. It can trigger algorithmic momentum buying, right? So people set their computers to make buys when certain price points are hit, right? I see this because I do some swing trading. What is swing trading, you ask? A whole nother stream. But basically, like, let's say that, all right, I'll tell you one that I've been buying and selling lately. Hang on. Because I want to be transparent with this stuff. All right, Palantir Technologies. That's one that I've been swing trading off and on all year long. Price goes down 4 or 5%, I buy it. Price goes up 4 or 5%, I sell it. Okay, so that's a swing trade. Okay. I don't do this personally, but there are people who will set their buys, their puts and their calls on their options trading, or their buys and their sells on regular share trading to be triggered by certain price points, right? So Palantir Technologies, as an example, is right now $175 a share. So somebody out there might have it set so that if it goes to $170 a share to buy, and if it goes to $200 a share to sell. Okay, so those are called algorithmic momentum buying or selling. Okay, and those breakout points, right? Like I said, 175 or 170, 200, that's called a resistance level, right? It's kind of a nice even number. People have a psychological factor that goes into that. If it blows past 170 going down, I might buy it myself. I might say, hey, that's a good price point for Palantir. I want to buy some. If it goes up to, let's see, I'm trying to see what it was at in the last year. Well, there we go. So if it goes up to 185, then maybe I sell it. Okay, you understand? All right, I'm going to end with a couple things here in a minute, but I want to go back to your chat one more time. I didn't get into all of this, but I hit some of the big stuff that hopefully explains like what's happening with the gold and silver market right now. Let's actually, before I go back to chat, I want to go back to that Apmex screen for a second. All right, so let's go over to gold, and I want to go to the price of gold here. Okay, so this is, let's see, how many days? This is 1 week. Price of gold fluctuating in 1 week. Let's go out 1 year ago. That's what gold has done in a year. So this is on the Apmex website. You can go here and play around with this yourself, and you can compare it with like the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, or Bitcoin. Let's look at Bitcoin. Why not? But Bitcoin had a great year too. Okay, so that's the gold is the gold line, of course, and Bitcoin is the blue line. So this is their starting point. Obviously, Bitcoin has outperformed it, but gold has had a great year. Let's look at versus the US dollar. Okay, look at that. So US dollar is weakening, gold is rising, just like we said. You can go out to 5 years. Okay, so there's gold, there's the US dollar. Okay. Let's play with silver. Let's do that. Okay, so this is silver. Silver's had a great year. Let's take a look. That's silver in the last year. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's on 9 months. Sorry, 10 months. That's the last year. Let's go 5 years out. Okay. So you can see we had a couple points back here where it broke those resistance levels. Whereas, so it looks like 25 was a resistance level, and then it just kind of hovers. And then I think it was, yeah, this is what we were talking about here. At one point, it got below 20. It got below 20 again in around 2022. If you were smart, you got in on silver there. Okay. But now look at that spike that you see here at the end. That's pretty unusual for silver. We saw a nice one here, but not since. So it's not since 2020. And guess what that was, guys? Look back at that. You know what that was? That was the pandemic. And everybody thinking the world was ending. And they started putting money into one of these safer havens. That's exactly what that was. Okay. So that's a pretty big spike there over by 2020. And that's a pretty big spike there. Breaking the 50 mark. Okay. Let's look at that versus the dollar. So you can play with these tools over on the Apmex website. Okay. Pretty interesting, right? Look at that. At one point, that was what, 2022. That's what we were saying. That would have been the perfect time to get in on silver right there. But you can't always time it, guys. You can't, you know, some of this is a little bit of luck too. Look at that difference though, between the dollar and silver. Dollar's weakening, silver's rising. Just like we said at the start of this stream, right? All right. So go on over, use my link, by the way, please. At the bottom, it's scrolling on the bottom and it's also in the description. What that does, I don't get a commission. It just tells them that I'm getting the word out, okay? Because they're a sponsor, which means I get paid a little bit differently than a commission, okay? So please use that. It helps them know that I'm getting the word out. And maybe you pick some up. Maybe you find some stuff over there that you like, okay? All right. Let's go to chat one more time, and then I'm going to end with a couple little quotes here from some financial gurus. I use gold and silver for the down payment on our property. Awesome. Just had to sell some off to come up with an extra 8K for a couple emergencies that hit at the same time. I'm sorry about your emergencies, but that is exactly what it's for as a prepper. So that's why we stack. And as you said, that's a much better option than taking on debt and interest. That's smart. That's smart financial talk right there. Headlight shows up around. Yeah, Bacon. Sorry to hear that. That's not good. They shouldn't be doing that. How you doing tonight, Bacon? I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't know what had happened to his channel either, so I'm sorry to hear that, Cuck Beef Farmer. Starbunk, good. Scruffy Scrubs, good. You're ahead of the game. I mean, for me, Lee, I think that what's going on with Russia is definitely concerning. It's as a prepper, you know, if the United States got into a bad war, I would want to have some gold and silver. I don't plan on leaving, but you never know what the future holds. And I could see a situation where if it was like a World War II situation, maybe you can only acquire certain things with gold and silver, right? If people don't have faith in the dollar, if it got that bad, maybe people are like, I'm not interested in your dollars. You got grandma's gold ring? We can talk. You need medicine? It's going to cost you gold and silver, right? I could see situations like that. There you go, Bacon. There you go. What did I send you? Was it a peace dollar or a Morgan dollar, something like that? Yeah, and things. Honestly, I'm heavily weighted in tech and AI. I'm very heavily weighted in that stuff right now. I have been taking my profits out as we go, so I didn't freak out today. If I hadn't been taking my profits out, I probably would have been having a really bad day. There is a little bit of a correction that a lot of people were saying was due. So maybe this is going to be part of that. I don't know. We're going to see what happens on Monday and Tuesday. Yeah, all of the above, maybe. All of the above, maybe. All right, cool. I'm caught up on your chat. Let me read you. So I want to end with a couple things here. By the way, if you haven't already done so, please go vote in the poll right now, because I'm about to check the results of the poll. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you're first time watching, thank you so much for joining us. Hope we gave you something of value. Please consider giving a thumbs up. Don't forget to check in the description down below for that link for Apmex. And, you know, if nothing else, go over there, play with those charts a little bit. They're kind of fun tools. to play with, and then shop around, see if there's something you like. People always think I couldn't afford gold or I couldn't afford silver. As I showed you at the beginning of this, maybe you could. And when I started out, let me share this little bit of story. I started stacking in 2009. I was going through a divorce at the time, and money was really, really tight for me. Really tight. It was the second time in my life where I was really poor. Now, it just is what it is. I'm not trying to bash the ex-wife or whatever. She's a good person, but the situation put a financial strain on both of us, and I was really, really poor enough that I was like unplugging all the appliances in the house, trying not to use light because I couldn't afford electricity. That's how poor I was. But I also knew that I had to be thinking about the future and not just living in the moment, not just paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth, because you the only person that's coming to rescue you is you. Okay, that's the truth. That's the hard truth. When you're in a bad financial situation, you either cut your costs or you increase your revenue or you do both. But the only person that's going to rescue you out of that mess is you. Okay, unless you have some billionaire benefactor, and I don't. And so I knew I needed to make some financial decisions about like, okay, I got to put some money into precious metals because I liked precious metals. And I always wanted to kind of get back into that. So all I could afford was 1 ounce of silver a month. At that time, it was about $14 or $15. That's how poor I was. So I saved like $3 or $4 a week, and I would go once a month and pick out Morgan silver dollar. Okay. Now, obviously, I eventually came out of that situation. I'm doing much better now financially, but it was rough. It was rough for a while, and I still found time to put back for the future. Okay, so you can do it too. I believe in you. I believe that you can find a couple dollars a week, even if you have to go out and recycle aluminum cans. You have to be thinking about the future, and that was one of the things I did, by the way, as well. Recycling aluminum cans, selling used books. I did everything I could to not end up in basically on the street. That was a tough period of my life. It was the second time that I was in a bad situation, but I survived it, and I learned a lot from that survival. So I believe that you can too, even if you're living paycheck to paycheck. I believe you can figure out a way to save enough to buy an ounce of silver a month. I don't think that's out of the expectations for anybody, right? Like I said, just recycling aluminum cans will be enough that you can probably buy 1 ounce of silver a month. Okay, so go check out the Apmex. You'll probably find things on there that you're going to start to get interested in and start a process, right? And if you get up to $199, you get free shipping. So what I would do if I was in that situation now, instead of buying 1 ounce of silver a month, I would save up for a couple months and then I would make $199 purchase or $200 purchase. So that I get the free shipping. Okay. Again, that's just me, not financial advice. This channel is for entertainment purposes only, folks. All right. Got a couple little quotes for you, but let's do that poll. Let's go see what you voted. All right. 42% of you said gold and silver. 42% of you said a combination of stocks, gold, and silver. 12% of you said savings account under the mattress, and 4% said stocks only. I did not vote in this, but if I was going to vote in this, it would have been combination of stocks, gold, and silver. And if I had more choices on here, it only gives you 4 choices. I would have added real estate as well. Okay. Because I do think usually land is a good investment. Personal opinion. All right. I'll check it out, Cockpea Farmer. Thank you. Yeah, man. I get it, Wayne. Sometimes we hit those. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. Sometimes we hit those tough times in life, and that's where our real survival skills do come in, right? Survival is not necessarily always about surviving in the woods, although it can be for some people. But there's other types of survival too. There's urban and suburban survival, and trying to just not lose my house, or trying to not have your car repoed, right? That's another type of survival as well. All right, I got 3 quotes to end with you. Ole Hansen, who is the head of commodity strategy at Saxo Bank, says, "We believe gold could reach 2,000. Sorry. This is a funny one. This was this can't be right. Dude, this is old data. That's funny. We believe gold could reach 2,400 by early 2026. It's at 4,000 now. If inflation remains sticky and central banks pivot more aggressively, the metal is regaining its role as a long-term inflation and geopolitical risk barometer. That's funny. All right, Peter Schiff. Silver is the sleeper. If gold breaks above 2,200, again, it's at 4,000. Silver could explode past $35. It's at 50 and head towards $50 in 2026. It's not even 2026, and we're already there. Industrial demand plus monetary chaos is a powerful combo. That's from the legendary Peter Schiff. And then lastly, Nikki Shields, head of metal strategy. We're entering a structural bullish phase for precious metals. Gold could average $2,300. It's at 4,000. And silver may outperform with a target of 32 to 36. It's at 50, driven by both investment and green energy demand. Okay, so moral of the story there is 3 market analysts way under predicted where the metals, where gold and silver would be at this stage. We've already blown past those targets, right? Could it pull back? Sure. Could it pull back? Sure. There's no guarantee on anything here, folks, but based on all those other factors we looked at, CPI, inflation, geopolitical tension, I'm feeling really optimistic personally about gold and silver. I'm feeling really happy about the money that I started putting back in that in 2009. Do I think it's too late? Nope. I'm going to continue to stack. In fact, like I said, I've got 4 boxes over there that I got to open, but I'm waiting to do it for a video with you. I want to share it with y'all. All right. Hope you all had a great time here, and thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you have a great weekend. Remember what I said there, that if you are in financial trouble, the only person who's coming to save you is you. So you got to start figuring it out. You got to start putting money back. You got to start scraping away, cutting those costs as best you can. Do whatever you have to do to get ahead of your budget at the end of the month. That's the bottom line. You got to get ahead of how much you're spending, okay? I appreciate you. I believe in you. I know you can do this. Keep planting your seeds. Keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge. Have a good night, everybody. Have a good weekend.